Alright, so the release date for Fatal Fury City of Wolves is right around the corner. This is one of the games that's been on my list, and when the beta dropped, I've dumped tons of hours learning new mechanics, as well as getting familiar with some of the characters, in which so far my favorite is Preacher. So with that being said, I kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about the lore of Fatal Fury, since my knowledge of it only goes so far, because Fatal Fury was released in kind of a unique way in America. For me, there's like a huge gap as far as what actually happened in Southtown, or what actually happened within the series. And so this is one of the things I'm kind of excited for with City of Wolves, is to kind of refamiliarize myself with these characters as well as their stories. And so ironically, SNK has released a story trailer or video that's gonna kind of catch us up. So let's go ahead and check that out, because I'm actually kind of confused as far as what's going on right now.
Prologue. Evil afoot in Southtown. Southtown, the world's most dangerous city. Here the mighty gather, rising above by virtue of their strength alone. Among them was the wise master Tung Fu and his two disciples, Geese Howard and Jeff Bogard. Entangled in a rivalry of strength, Geese murdered his fellow disciple, anticipating Jeff would one day oppose his sinister ambitions. Episode 1, Revenge of the Wolves. Terry and Andy Bogard, Jeff's adopted sons, swear to avenge his death.
So I didn't know that right there. I didn't know that Terry and Andy were adopted.
They train diligently for the fateful encounter. With friend Joe Higashi, they pick their moment to pounce. King of Fighters, a martial arts tournament held by Geese.
That's the first Fatal Fury. Now, all right. So, and I do remember when I first started playing the first Fatal Fury game, Joe Higashi was my favorite character. I loved his knee move and the tornado uppercut.
Aware that Jeff's sons have come for him, Geese tries to
really
erase Terry, now KOF champion, with his own two hands. Their furious fight ends with the Kingpin falling off Geese Tower to his death. Episode 2,
really cool how,
from death comes more darkness. Time passes, and Southtown settles into a fragile calm. But those quiet days are shattered by the announcement of a new KOF. Hosting this tournament is none other than Geese Howard's stepbrother, Wolfgang Krauser von Stroheim.
All right, see, I'm already learning a lot, because I didn't know that Krauser was Geef's half-brother.
Krauser seeks the mantle of world's strongest by hunting down Geese's greatest adversary. 3 fearsome enforcers aid Krauser in his quest, but the hungry wolf simply cannot be subdued.
He whooped Krauser's ass.
Episode 0, Heir to the Bloodline.
Okay, all right. So this is where it kind of got confusing for me, because I remember having Fatal Fury 1 and 2 on the Genesis, and then getting Special on the Super NES. But there was like this weird gap with Fatal Fury 3, because you couldn't get it anywhere unless you had a Neo Geo, and nobody had a Neo Geo because the games were like $700. But that's where it gets into, I think, Fatal Fury 3 and then Real Bout.
A young boy lives with his sickly mother on the outskirts of Southtown. Her condition grave, he sets off for Geese Tower with a desperate plea. There, the boy seeks help from his father, the ruthless Geese Howard, but is sent away empty-handed.
All right, so maybe this is what happened in Fatal Fury 3, but that doesn't make any sense. So Geese had a son, and then his son is looking for him and goes to Geese Tower. So that means that he survived, which was odd, because I think he was in Fatal Fury 3, but I'm like, they never explain how he survived.
With all hope lost, resentment towards Geese wells up within. The child is Rock Howard, and years later he comes into Terry's care. With that, their journey and unbreakable...
All right. I'm sorry for pausing, but now this is crazy. So Geese he's a working businessman and he's successful. And so his son gets pissed off because his father's too busy at work to play with him. And now all of a sudden the guy who supposedly murdered him from the first game just like takes on a step parent role. Come on.
Bond begins. Episode 3, Final Rise and Fall. Geese is back as if from beyond the grave, and he brings another KOF with him as proof. Once again, Terry faces off with his father's killer atop Geese Tower. A battle of dark destiny, a moment of deja vu. Terry reaches out into the abyss, but Geese will not be saved.
Now they make memes about that in the
Rock
FGC all
confronts
the time.
Terry over his father's fate, and yet is unsure why. Episode 4, 10 years on.
See, and that's where the gap is for me, because I thought that how the story went was that Terry killed Geese and he felt guilty, and so then he took on raising Rock. But I didn't know that he already had kind of a prior relationship with, or he had a relationship with him prior. And so this is kind of insightful, but I kind of wish it was maybe done a little bit better, but let's continue.
Rock matures in both mind and body under Terry's wing. One day, a familiar envelope arrives. King of Fighters has come again. The organizer this time is one Kine R. Heinlein. His motives, however, remain shrouded in mystery.
All right, this is Mark of the Wolves.
At the tournament's climax, Kine reveals a shocking truth. Rock's mother is alive. This compels Rock to join forces with Kine. He bids farewell to Terry, a young heart in turmoil. Episode 5, A Question of Legacy. Sometime later, mysterious KOF invitations make their way across the city once more. A legacy of darkness. A truth coming to light. Which path will Rock take forward?
Okay.
Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves.
All right, so this was just a very brief synopsis or a recap of the story so far. And although this video was very insightful, it actually proposed more questions than answers for me. For one, I'm wondering how Rock ended up in the care of Terry, because this is the guy that kind of murdered your father. And I understand his mother got sick and he thought that she passed away. But how did Terry end up happening upon this kid and then taking on a parental role? Maybe it's answered in the game and I missed it. But I've always thought that was kind of weird, because in my mind, I thought that, and maybe this is just how I imagined him coming into the care of Rock, but I thought that he, killed Geese in Geese Tower, and then Rock was actually there and he just decided to adopt him or something like that. And so it kind of feels like that's not the case. But also, I remember one of my biggest gripes about City of Wolves was that it looked just like a remaster of Mark of the Wolves. But now it's looking like this is a direct sequel to that. It's actually following right after the events of Mark of the Wolves. And so I think that's really cool. And that's one thing that I will give praise about with the Fatal Fury series, is that they weren't afraid to age up the characters. And that's something that I always thought was cool, because Terry has always had his traditional look with the red trucker hat and the jacket and everything, but to give him like the bomber jacket and a different look, I always thought that was really cool, as well as introducing a character like Rock from a child and then into his adult years. And so I guess they're probably going to answer some more of these questions within the game story, or maybe I need to go back and play some of the older games. But I thought that I also thought that this was kind of a missed opportunity, because watching this and seeing how it's all laid out, the story does feel kind of conjumbled, especially with them killing Geese and then bringing them back. And I'm assuming they're probably going to bring them back again. But I felt like this was a missed opportunity to actually retcon the story and make things a little bit more cohesive, because it kind of doesn't feel very cohesive. But nonetheless, we play fighting games because of the mechanics and the characters and not really for the story. So I am still looking forward to this game, and I guess we'll just have to figure things out on the story at a later time. Anyway, guys, leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about this, and are you excited for City of Wolves? I am, and I will definitely be picking this game up. Anyway, like, share, and subscribe. I'll see y'all next time. Take care. Peace.